We wanted to put together a short video so that you can get as much out of our practices and then the performance for our Easter reenactment as possible. So we ask that you consider watching through this video. If there's any questions that you have, please feel free to ask Silvana, ask myself. I'll tell you I probably don't have the answer and I'll tell you to ask Silvana, or look at the more extensive email that the church sent out last week with a lot more details. But what do you need to know? Starting in the next couple of weeks, we're going to start our full rehearsals. The full rehearsals, I want to let you know you should plan to stay long enough to go through the entire program twice, as well as a little bit of feedback in between. So just make sure with your schedule that you are aware that you're probably going to be here starting pretty early in the afternoon until dinner time. Something to keep in mind is we do want everyone to show up on time. That's actually really important because we wait till everybody is here, because even missing one person really sets us back. It means if you choose to be 5 minutes late, you've held up a lot of people for 5 minutes, which is really a lot of time that we've absorbed with that. So please make sure to come on time and be ready to go. So that might mean that you actually have to come 15 to 20 minutes early so that you can get your costume on, so that you can get yourself settled, so that if you need to get your kids checked in to any places, they can be checked in and ready to go. But we really do want to start on time. So we're asking you to adjust your schedule as you need to do in order to accomplish that. A couple of things with the rehearsals I want to make you aware of. The first 2 weeks of rehearsals we call full rehearsals, and those are not in costume, but they are using a lot of the props, a lot of the setups. We may stop mid-rehearsal in order to go over something or to start something over. And those are the ones where, I guess I'll say it, people tend to act up and have a little bit more freedom and fun with it. When we get to the dress rehearsal, we really are expecting everybody to be right on with their lines, with their costumes. We go through it as if there are people in the audience. In fact, I've heard that there could be people in the audience because the media has asked which of the rehearsals would be appropriate for them to come to, and we told them the dress rehearsal was the one that would be the most appropriate. So just bearing that in mind, that there is a difference between full rehearsal and dress rehearsal, and we do have an expectation that dress rehearsal is done very formally. The day of the performance, parking is a big deal because we do expect the building to fill up. And so for all of you who are helping with the Easter reenactment, we ask that you park over in the State Lab parking lot. We've got permission from them, it's allowed, but it's really important. The day of, plan to park in the State Lab parking lot, and that will just help everybody out, especially our parking team. I want to talk a little bit about costumes. There's just some things to be aware of. First of all, the costumes are something that the costume committee takes very seriously and has worked really hard on. For that reason, we ask that you don't make changes to your costume without having those changes approved by the costume committee. Things as simple as choosing a different pair of shoes or maybe adding some piece of jewelry to your costume, even things like that, we want you to get approval by the costume committee because every part of the costume has been carefully selected in order to give the best representation of the period of time in which Christ was walking on the earth. A couple of other just general notes. Some of you have specific places that you've been asked for dressing rooms to change in, but there are some things that you should just be aware of. Our young men and our older men all are dressing downstairs. We ask that you don't bring food or anything like that down there, but for everybody else, just be aware you shouldn't be going downstairs unless you're a young man or an older man going down to change. Similarly, our young ladies and our younger children are going to be changing in the kids' wing of the church. And so again, if you're not part of that group, you shouldn't be going over there. Now, there's a couple of other places where people have designated dressing rooms depending on special circumstances, and they're aware of those places. But in general, before you go through a door, look at the door and make sure there's not a sign that says it is so-and-so's dressing room. Avoid an awkward circumstance. The other thing I want to say, just in terms of costumes and in terms of dressing rooms, if you can, the night of the performances, make sure that you're in costume and either in the fellowship hall or if you're a child, in the kids area by 6:30. The idea here is that we don't want people who are coming in to view the play to see us in costume before the play actually starts. And the reason for that is to really give the effect of when the doors open and everyone is walking in costume, it immediately draws them into the feeling that they are in Jerusalem at the time when Christ is walking in. So we really want that effect, which means that we need to stay hidden in our costumes while people are coming in. So the two places, again, where we're going to be stationed are in the fellowship hall and then in the conference room for the kids. So if you can just make a point of being in costume, being ready to go. One final thing, if you are working with children and helping them get in their costumes, and it's really important, if you can get them to the bathroom before 6:30 and before they're in their costume. That will make a big difference for all of our childcare workers so that they're not having to worry about that. So again, big things to remember. Our costumes should be on by 6:30. If we need to use the restroom, we've done that before 6:30, and we are all hidden in the fellowship hall or in the conference room by 6:30. I want to take just a couple of minutes to talk through timing, because time is always a factor that's going on. So on a typical night before the performance, you want to arrive sometime around 5:30, maybe just a little bit before. And the reason for that is that we do have food that is available for those who are working that night. So whether that's you're on cast, maybe you're doing parking, any of the jobs that you might be doing, the food is going to be served at 5:30. You do need to sign up back on the bulletin board to let them know that you're going to be eating so we know how much food to get. But the food begins at 5:30 and it ends at 6 o'clock. So they'll no longer be serving food at 6 o'clock. So you've got a half-hour window there. We know a lot of you come directly from work, and this is an opportunity for you to still get a good meal before you get ready to go ahead and begin the play. At 6 o'clock, the kitchen is going to shut down, and the idea now is we are getting ourselves ready. So what that looks like is getting in costume, using the restroom, getting any sorts of details that you need to be ready in order to go. And that window is from 6 o'clock to 6:30 that you're doing that. At 6:30, we again ask that everyone is either in the fellowship hall or the kids in the conference room. And what we want you to do with that time at 6:30 is to grab a couple of people and spend some time in prayer. We really do firmly believe that prayer is the foundation of everything that we're doing. And so this might be you grab two friends and you sit down in a corner and you pray together. It might be you grab a couple of other people, maybe some family members. But the idea here is spend some time praying. Pray for the people who are going to view, as well as for all of us who are participating. But spend a good amount of time in prayer. Close to 7 o'clock. I will come into the fellowship hall and I'll lead us all together in a time of prayer. And Silvana may or may not, depending on what's going on, have some final words to share with us, or anything that she's noticed that we need to make a point of paying attention to. She'll also let us know if there's anything special going on in the audience, or just things that we would have an advantage to knowing. We have officially set the start time at 7 o'clock, but we also know going into it that we're likely not going to start right at 7. It just takes some time to get everyone settled. And so what will happen is we will be in the fellowship hall ready to go, and we will be waiting until somebody comes in to tell us it's starting now. At that point, that's when we begin our process of getting lined up. Some of the parents will need to get their kids for the crowd scene. Various things like that are going to be taking place. But that's where we have to be really flexible, because while we want to start at 7, we know realistically it's going to take some time to adapt. Once the play has started, we're going to go through it just like we will have practiced. And all of those pieces of information are going to fall in. At the end, though, there will be a short message, and then we will dismiss everybody. It's really important at that point of that dismissal for all of the cast and everybody on stage that if you have children who were part of that final scene, that you find them and get them out as well, just so that we don't have kids wandering around without a place to go. So that's really important. After I've prayed and dismissed everybody, including the audience, many people are going to want to greet you. There's going to be cookie fellowship in the fellowship hall, and people might want to take a picture with you. People might just want to shake your hand. So don't be too excited to get your costume off, because people may want to see you in costume to interact with you. In the cookie fellowship, we are going to ask that everybody limit themselves to 2 cookies. That way everyone has an opportunity to get cookies. And then as things wrap up, people will begin leaving and we'll begin shutting things down. It generally is going to take, though, probably a half hour or more after the end of the performance before a lot of people are going to be able to get away. So just as you're planning your timing, keep that in mind. Finally, with your costume, we ask that you don't take your costume home, but rather you find a hanger and you hang your costume up so that it is prepared to go for the next performance. So again, a final reminder, don't take your costume home. The costume should stay here so that you're ready to go. If there is anything wrong with your costume, like maybe it got some blood on it from the crucifixion scene, anything like that, then please talk to the costume ladies. They can get you squared away. They will get it cleaned up for you. But that's the big thing that I want to emphasize as we close out. Finally, as you close out, spend some time in prayer. Again, prayer is going to be the foundation of everything we do. So as we begin, we should be in prayer. As we end, we should be in prayer. I'm looking forward to doing this with all of you, and I hope that this is a time where God is glorified through everything we do.